In the 7th year after the Hijra, a pivotal moment in Islamic history was about to unfold. The oasis of Khaybar, a formidable stronghold located about 150 kilometers north of Medina, was home to several powerful and wealthy tribes. For years, they had posed a significant threat to the nascent Muslim community, instigating conflicts and forming alliances against them. The time had come to address this constant danger. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, led an army of around 1,400 to 1,600 men toward this fortress city, marking the beginning of the Battle of Khaybar. Khaybar was not a single city but a collection of well-fortified citadels, each a challenge in its own right. It was divided into three main regions. The first was Al-Naita, which housed the forts of Naim, Sabib and Muad, and Qalat al-Zubair. The second region, Al-Shik, contained the forts of Ubay and Nizar, and the third, Al-Katiba, held the strongest fortresses, Al-Khamas, Al-Wati, and Sulalim. The Muslim army would have to conquer these one by one. The campaign began with a siege, cutting off the forts and engaging the warriors who dared to venture out. The first fortress to be targeted was Naim. This was one of the most heavily guarded forts, and its defenders were known for their bravery. The siege was tough, and the initial assaults were met with fierce resistance. The legendary warrior of Khaybar, Marhab, emerged from this fort, challenging the Muslims to single combat. He was a giant of a man, clad in double armor, and his presence was intimidating. After a few initial duels, it was Ali ibn Abi Talib who stepped forward to face him. The ensuing duel was epic, a clash of titans that ended with Ali's decisive victory. The fall of Marhab was a massive blow to the morale of Khaybar's defenders, and soon after, the fort of Naim was conquered by the Muslims. Following the fall of Naim, the Muslim forces turned their attention to the next major stronghold in the Al-Naita region, the fort of Sabib and Muad. This fortress was also heavily fortified and well stocked with supplies and weapons. Its defenders were determined to hold their ground. The siege was intense, and the Muslims faced a barrage of arrows and stones from the high walls. For several days, the battle raged. The Muslims displayed incredible patience and perseverance. Casualties were mounting on both sides, but the strategic encirclement by the Muslim army began to take its toll. Food and water became scarce for the defenders. Finally, after a grueling fight that lasted for days, the fort of Sabib and Muad fell into Muslim hands. The capture of this fort yielded a significant amount of food, weapons, and resources, which greatly helped the Muslim army sustain its campaign. The third fort in the Al-Naita cluster was Qalat al-Zubair. This fortress was strategically located on a high hilltop, making it extremely difficult to attack. Its elevated position gave its defenders a clear advantage, as they could easily spot any approaching forces and rain down projectiles upon them. The Muslims attempted to lay siege, but the terrain was challenging. However, a man from Khaybar approached the Prophet and told him about a hidden underground water source that supplied the fort. Acting on this intelligence, the Muslims managed to cut off the fort's water supply. Deprived of this essential resource, the defenders could not hold out for long. They were forced to abandon the fortress and retreat to other strongholds, allowing the Muslims to capture Qalat al-Zubair without a major bloody confrontation. With this victory, the entire Al-Naita region was under Muslim control. The campaign then moved to the second region of Khaybar, Al-Shik. The first target here was the fort of Ubay. The warriors of Al-Shik were prepared for the Muslim advance, but the successive fall of the forts in Al-Naita had already shaken their confidence. The Muslims, now battle-hardened and bolstered by their recent victories, laid siege to Ubay fort. The defenders put up a fight, but they were no match for the disciplined and determined Muslim army. After a short but fierce skirmish, the fort was captured. The ease of this victory compared to the earlier ones showed the shifting momentum of the entire battle. Next in line was the fort of Nizar, the last major fortress in the Al-Shik region. This was the main military garrison for this part of Khaybar and was heavily fortified. The Muslims launched a powerful assault. The fighting was intense as the defenders of Nizar fought desperately to protect their homes and families. The catapults of the Muslim army were brought into play, launching stones that breached the fortress walls. The psychological impact of the continuous siege, coupled with the military pressure, eventually broke the defenders' resolve. The fort of Nizar was taken by force, and with its fall, the entire Al-Shik region of Khaybar was conquered. The campaign was now moving towards its final and most challenging phase. The remaining defenders of Khaybar consolidated their forces in the Al-Katiba region, which contained the most formidable fortresses of all, Al-Khamas, Al-Wati, and Sulalim. The first of these, Al-Khaymas, was the citadel of the Banu Abi al-Hukayk tribe built on a high inaccessible rock. It was considered virtually impregnable. The siege began, and for days the Muslims were unable to make any headway. Every morning a new commander would be appointed to lead the charge, but every evening they would return unsuccessful. The Prophet then famously declared, "Tomorrow I will give the banner to a man who loves God and his messenger, and whom God and his messenger love. God will grant victory at his hands." The next morning the banner was given to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali, despite suffering from a severe eye infection, led the charge. After his miraculous cure, he advanced towards Al-Khaymas. In a legendary display of strength and faith, he faced the fort's defenders. The fighting was the most intense of the entire campaign. According to historical accounts, when Ali lost his shield, he is said to have lifted a massive gate off its hinges and used it as a shield. His bravery inspired the Muslim army, and they surged forward. The gate of the fortress was breached, and after a fierce battle inside, the seemingly unconquerable fort of Al-Khaymas finally fell. This was the turning point. With Al-Khaymas conquered, the remaining two forts, Al-Wati and Sulalim, were in a hopeless position. Their strongest defense had been broken, and their morale was shattered. They were completely surrounded and had no hope of receiving reinforcements. Seeing the futility of further resistance, the inhabitants of these last two forts sent a message to the Prophet requesting to negotiate terms of surrender. They asked for their lives to be spared in exchange for leaving Khaybar and relinquishing all their property. The Prophet, known for his mercy, accepted their proposal. However, the people of Khaybar were skilled farmers and knew the land better than anyone. They then proposed a new arrangement. They would remain on the land and cultivate it, giving half of their produce to the Muslims in Medina. This agreement was also accepted. It established a new precedent for dealing with conquered peoples, allowing them to retain their land and livelihoods in exchange for a share of the harvest. The Battle of Khaybar was over. It was a decisive victory that eliminated a major threat, secured the northern frontier of Medina, and significantly strengthened the economic and political position of the Muslim community. It stands as a testament to faith, strategy, and the leadership of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please give it a like, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content on Islamic history. See you in the next video.